So if you've not seen me before, and you probably haven't, my name is Nick Simino, and I am the interim outreach coordinator and adjunct instructor here at Delgado. Maybe you've worked with Claude before. I'm in this position now, so I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me. So this is our first career speaker series of the spring semester. My name, as I said before, is Nick Simino, and I am the interim outreach coordinator and advisor for the Computer Information Technology and Cloud Computing programs here at Delgado Community College, and I will be the host for this event. Today, we are joined by Naomi Herr, Senior Manager of Operations and Programming at New Orleans Business Alliance, NOLABA. We say NOLABA?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So Naomi's work with NOLABA spans the gamut from tech and operations to community development and outreach, and focuses on making sustainable impact on the community around her. Naomi is passionate about closing the gap around equitable resources and opportunities for marginalized communities in the city of New Orleans. Naomi and her wife, a Black business owner here in New Orleans, have shared a commitment to creating change that will positively impact the world that their children will inherit. So what does work in tech and community development look like? What was Naomi's career path to get here? We're going to find that out today. So thanks for being here. But before I turn this over to Naomi, I want to tell everyone what exactly this career speaker series is and go over some of our ground rules that we have. For those of you who are new or this is your first time, the Career Speaker Series is a monthly series of guest presentations from industry professionals in the IT and related fields to talk about what it is that they do, how they got there, and how you can too. We put these events on to demystify technology careers and opportunities in the world so that our students, faculty, and staff at Delgado, as well as other members of the community, can see how technology is being used professionally around us. We're going to have time for questions and answers built into our presentations at the end. So if you've got some questions, as I recommended as people are coming in, I've got my note cards and my pen. I'm going to be writing down the interesting things that I hear that I want to ask about. So hopefully you can write those down too, and please save them for the end. We're going to let Naomi share with us first. So in that vein, please mute yourself if you haven't done so already. Looks like we're doing all right there. And then we're going to drop our questions. If you have something, please write it down. But if you want to throw it in the chat so it doesn't get lost, that's fine. But please save those kinds of things for the end. And then finally, if you are having fun today, if you like this event, we encourage you to, shout it out, post about it, tweet about it, do an Instagram post, Snapchat, whatever you got to tell people about these kinds of events, that's great. Because we're trying to tell as many people as possible, and your help is greatly appreciated. It seems like, technology and these kinds of skills are a great way to make a positive impact on the people around you. So spread the word. So if you're on social media, you can use hashtag the other CSS cascading style sheets, but also Career Speaker Series. And you can @ us at the @Delgado IT Pro. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn. So that's about me. That's about the Career Speaker Series. But you are here to see Naomi. So Naomi, take it away.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you all for having me. So this is going to be an interesting story I give you guys. So hopefully I don't lose anybody. You're not too bored. But my name is Naomi. I am the Senior Manager of Operations and Programming at the New Orleans Business Alliance and 50 Forward. So essentially I have a dual role. So on the programming side, I work with a small but mighty team of 4 with 50 Forward, which is a nonprofit collaborative housed within NOLABA, and is focused on attracting and retaining young professionals here in the city of New Orleans. So we work to connect you with industry professionals, events and opportunities here in the city to ensure that New Orleans continues to be a place that you can grow and thrive. On the operations side, I work with an amazing team at the New Orleans Business Alliance. And a little background, NOLABA is the official economic development organization for the city of New Orleans. And while we're not the only economic development organization here, we are the only one focused on solely growing the New Orleans economy. And my role with NOLABA is where my tech work comes in. So on one hand, like I work with vendors, you know, I order supplies, whether it's office supplies, equipment supplies like ink and toner, coffee, water, things like that. I also set up our offices and various meeting rooms and put together furniture and equipment. But on the other hand, I'm the go-to tech person for our office. So I do everything from troubleshooting computer and equipment issues. I procure new laptops and printers and other equipment for the office. I decommission old laptops and desktops, which often requires taking it apart for recycling. For incoming employees, I set up new laptops. I ensure that they have all the equipment they need, like monitors and docking stations. I set up their emails and all of that, and have their office and their desk ready so that they can jump right into work on the first day. So I've even gone as far in this role, and this was like kind of a first for me, but I take apart damaged equipment and I save salvageable spare parts so that I can, you know, fix equipment that maybe get broken along the way through travel and remote work and back and forth. And then I've also researched, procured, and planned out the installation process of our access control entry on the doors to our office. I didn't install them myself, but I did see the process through, and then I helped educate our staff on how to use the app, how the system works, things that they need. So really my tech work at NOLA BA, it's a wide variety, and I'm always learning. So one of my biggest roles since joining NOLA BA has been to launch and manage our virtual office and remote setup. I started at NOLA BA in April of 2019. So at the time that COVID hit, I hadn't been in my role for a full year just yet. The week that our office went remote, I started to kind of work on a plan for that, for a possible remote setup if we needed to on that Monday. But by Wednesday evening, our then CEO, he made the call to officially start working remotely as of that Thursday. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to execute. But by that Friday, I had everyone set up with meeting platforms. I had office phones directed to everyone's cell phone. We got the team set up with VPN access so that they could get onto our server and access files that they may need. And then I had to figure out the best way to troubleshoot for my team, because usually if someone has an issue at the office, they would just pop by my desk and say, hey, can you come look at this for me? And I'm able to get in front of their computer. So because I wasn't able to get my hands on their computers when they had these issues, I kind of had to research and navigate what's the best way for me to remote in to their computers. I ended up choosing TeamViewer, which I have relied on for the entire pandemic. I'm sure that there are other programs out there. That's just the one that I use. So at the time, we were thinking that this was going to be like a week or two, and then we'd be back in the office and everything would be fine. However, as the pandemic progressed, we realized that it was going to be a little bit longer. So after about a month, 2 months, we began to contemplate how we could host events that were supposed to be in person. Now, how can we host them virtually? So that was when I started to transition into learning different platforms to deliver content and host events for NOLA BA and our various partners. Once things started to get a little bit better and we were a little bit more comfortable about having, a small amount of people in the office or in a meeting room, we started to execute hybrid meetings on a very small scale. So essentially, when it came down to that piece, I would set up the room and the equipment, and then I would run the meetings for the run the presentations for the meetings. We learned through execution that the room we were having these meetings in was really large. So it was hard for people on Zoom to hear participants in the room, which of course led to the next wave of learning to kind of research how do we make hybrid meetings more effective. So through research, we ended up going with the Meeting Owl, and that device has really transformed the way we execute hybrid meetings. That So despite everything negative that has happened with COVID, on a positive side for me, that learning curve and execution of remote work for the last almost 2 years, it's been very rewarding. When it comes to the tech side of my job, I think I've probably experienced the most growth in my career over the last few years with all of the challenges that have come with the pandemic. But I'm really proud of how I've been able to execute and how my team has risen to the challenge of learning the different systems and the challenge of remote work in general to still do the amazing work that they do. Now, how did I get here? So let me tell you the path to where I'm at in my career. But instead of, at the time, instead of like, this is such a great accomplishment, congratulations, things like that, all I heard was, man, you're coming out of school at a bad time. There aren't any jobs. The jobs that are there, they're not paying well. So I came out of school with a lot of anxiety behind going to work. So once I graduated, I had that feeling of, look, just find a job, okay? Just find anything, just go get to work. So I started applying to anything and everything that I felt like I might be qualified to do. So this is where it gets very interesting. I started out doing basic accounting work for an office equipment supply company. And then I went into that same type of work at an HVAC company. Then I moved into office management at a pest control company, which quickly turned into also becoming a pest control technician. I have to tell you guys that I was miserable all along the way. So living in the DC, Maryland area in comparison to New Orleans is extremely different. It's extremely different. So, here, if we look at the GPS and it says, oh, 30 minutes, we're like, what's going on? Do we really need to go, right? In DC and Maryland, Virginia, where I was working, sometimes, I lived 15 minutes from my job, but it could take me an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to work. So I'm sitting in traffic every morning. I'm sitting in traffic in the evening. I'm not enjoying my job. It was insane. So finally, I got a job in the nonprofit sector. And that's where I found some joy in doing that work. And it really was the mission. I stayed at that job for almost 3 years because I really enjoyed the work that we did. I enjoyed working in the community. I enjoyed just kind of seeing the difference that we made. But there wasn't much room for growth and the pay was low. So at a certain point, I started to feel a little bit burnt out. In 2015, I came to New Orleans for vacation and I was here for about 2 weeks. So I got to experience like the craziness of Mardi Gras, but then I also got to go into the community and, see things that I feel like tourists maybe don't go see. So I fell in love with the city. And when I went home, I told everybody, I was like, man, I'm moving. I'm moving down to New Orleans. That's it. Everyone thought that I was crazy. They were like, yeah, okay, we'll see. However, when I get my mind set on something, I go with it. So I moved 6 months later after coming back from that vacation. And the only issue with that was I fell into the same just get a job mentality that I had when I came out of college, because I felt like in order to move and like be okay, I had to take anything just so I would have a job when I got here. I would say that between adjusting to living somewhere completely new, far away from friends and family, plus working at jobs I wasn't really interested in or enjoying, I really struggled for the first couple of years. And in 2017, I lost my job, and that was really when my shift happened. If it's one thing that I learned through that experience was that New Orleans has so much to offer, and it's really about finding what you want to do and going for it. So I decided at that point that I was going to focus on the things that I was good at and the things that I enjoyed. I decided to go back to school for community and economic development, and that my next step of job hunting was I was going to be very intentional about where I was looking for work. I was going to do, there was going to be no more just anything to have a job moves. And it was through research for an assignment for one of my classes that I actually came across the NOLA BA website. I noticed that they had a receptionist position open, so I applied. When I emailed HR directly, kind of did some research to see who was, who was in charge and everything. And I told them that I was an economic development student, and I was looking for an entry-level position to get my feet into the field. But I wanted something that where I could apply the things that I was learning in class to real life experience. And this was, for me, this was different because I didn't have like a generic cover letter that I just made a few changes to, or I had my resume, and then I wanted to be very intentional about what I was saying. So I went for it. Unfortunately, they had like just filled the receptionist position, but HR, they did let me know that an operations position would be opening in the near future that I might be interested in. So just, stay in touch. And so I waited. I still went through the job boards and kind of looked through stuff that I wanted to do, things that I could be interested in. I looked back at some of the, like in the New Orleans office of the nonprofit that I had worked for back in Maryland, just kind of see, but again, still being very intentional about what I wanted to do. I, kind of stuck with the path. When the job opened, I applied, but I was very, to be honest, I was very intimidated by the job description around tech. And it wasn't because, it's like, oh, I'm going to apply for something that I have no idea what I'm doing, because that wasn't necessarily the case. I just felt like I may have been a little underqualified because I had zero tech experience on my resume. I had nothing to say, hey, pick me, right? So I applied. The interview process was we did a phone interview first, and then we went into an in-person interview, and I had two interviews at that point. And in my very last interview, like in-person interview, that question around my lack of tech work or my lack of work in the industry, it came up. And it was like, well, we noticed that you don't have any real tech background. Why do you feel like you're qualified for this, like for this position? And so I was honest. I told them, my story of getting into work and the things that I enjoyed, the things that I did. I did tell them that I did give them like, these are all the things that I'm interested in tech. These are the things that I do, but I also made it a point to let them know that I was confident in myself. I wasn't afraid to learn. I've never been afraid to learn, and kind of hope for the best. And I guess they like me because here I am. But one of the things that I think I enjoy right now about my job is that I get to do something that I'm good at, right? And I get to work for an organization that allows me to also work with my interests. Looking back at some of the previous work experience that I had and comparing it to where I am now, NOLA BA really encourages and promotes both personal and professional growth. So anything I want to learn, I ask, and I get to get hands-on experience. And I think that that's important when you go into looking for a job, is that, are you going to be able to grow? Are you going to be able to continue to learn? And are you going to be happy? The cool thing about working in tech is that it's needed everywhere, right? So you can get a job working in your field and have a job that is within your interest. So for me, economic development is something I had always been interested in, but I never kind of got into. So now it's like, well, I'm able to use the things that I've learned about economic development and apply it into the tech field, because I get to work with my team on the back end, but also at some point I hope to get to grow into, you know, being a professional that works towards closing the tech gap. And I think that in my job now, I'm kind of already doing that. Just like you all, if you're showing interest in this and you have a tech background, you're already working to close the gap. And I think that that is where one of my things is that I always I enjoy these types of conversations, because one of the things you want to do in the tech industry is always reach back for those coming up behind you. What's the next steps? What are we doing? How are we growing? And sometimes there's a lot of stigma of saying, well, I don't have, I didn't grow up with technology. I don't have, like that tech background. I can't go into this, education piece because I never learned it. And that's not true. So I think that part of what we do is about like demystifying what tech looks like and what it's going to look like in the future. So even now, as we work in the industry or head into jobs in the industry, we always have to look at what's next and what can we teach those behind us about our own path and about where technology is headed. And I think that we all, being so involved in technology, I think that we see that already. Like we can kind of watch the trends and see where we're headed. So if you take nothing else away from my long-winded story, just remember that you can find a job working in your industry and in your interests, and find joy in your career by applying what you know how to do to the things that you enjoy, and never be afraid to learn new things and push yourself to the next level. And I feel like I got through that really quickly, but I know I was talking a little bit fast. So I'm willing to take any questions that you guys may have now.
I have a question.
Yes.
I listened to you about the career you have now. When you first started this career, was it hard for you to catch on to anything? Was anything hard about it?
I think the hardest part was, when you join a new team and you're working with, new people that you got, getting to know each other, getting to know how other people like to work. Also, especially when it comes down to tech stuff, right? If you are doing troubleshooting and things like that, I think sometimes the hardest part is being able to find that time in the calendar, like, hey, well, I'm working on this problem right now. Do you have 5 minutes? And they might say, well, no, I have a meeting in 10 and I need my laptop. So I think the hardest part is just working with the team and finding what works for you. I think if you go into it with, confidence and kind of give yourself a second to breathe and go through the learning curve, I think that the transition it'll be smooth.
Okay.
You say you went to college. What exactly did you study while going to college?
So for undergrad, I got my associates in business and technical writing, and then I got my bachelor's degree in communications. And to give you a little bit of a backstory, I wanted to. When I first went to school, I wanted to do graphic design. But then I realized, because I was really interested in like building websites, but then I realized that graphic design was like this huge program of like all these different things that I had to learn that I didn't want to learn. So I went the communications route, and I did all of my tech stuff kind of in the background.
Sorry, I haven't had a question. What languages have you been able to, or have you found to be more important on the work that you do?
Can you be more specific?
For programming languages, I'm guessing that you use them. So which ones do you use the most, and in what areas do you use them for?
So for the job that I do at NOLA BA, I don't do any specific like programming. Some of the things that I have, most of the things that I work with are like, again, like troubleshooting, email issues, make sure we're running updates, installing new programs and things like that. But on the actual programming side, I don't dig deep into any of that stuff.
Naomi, I have a question, and I know that some of us may have joined in late. Can you just tell us like really quickly again, like what NOLA BA does and 5.0 Forward, and kind of like what the distinction is there?
Okay, so 5.0 Forward is it's geared to connect young professionals with industry leaders, other people in the industry. We have some of our signature events are like restaurant nights, connections and cocktails. We do a dine around where we invite young professionals to some industry leaders. They sit down for dinner and kind of talk through all the different things that we want to do. So 5.0 Forward, and that's kind of like the small piece of it. We're building up to work around like hiring events. We recently did like a financially fit webinar. So we're growing our platform to really help young professionals transition from whatever, spot that they are in, whether it's coming out of school and into the working world, or whether they're looking to make a change from the current industry they're in to something different. So that's where we're at with 5.0 Forward. And then NOLA BA is it's an economic development organization for the city of New Orleans. So we work in we have different work streams. We work with small businesses. We work with industry attraction and retention, strategic neighborhood development. And so essentially like there's a larger spectrum of like all the different pieces of work that we do. But ultimately, we're working to show the world really that New Orleans is the best city for investment in business, for quality of life, and for inclusive economic opportunity.
So sorry, another follow-up question. Well, somebody's in the chat here, but real quick. So you're working with a lot of people who are changing industries or getting into the industry for the first time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of folks. Do you notice something that people do, or do you have a recommendation of like, these are like skills or qualities or ideas that are really helpful, or that could, bring somebody a long way? Do you see something like that?
So one of the things I think is that not being afraid to make that jump. That is one of the biggest things, because sometimes I think, and I speak for myself, as I think that's what kind of kept me from jumping into the things that I wanted to do, was that fear of not being good enough or not having enough information. And so I think not being afraid to make that jump is number one, right? And then I think that being willing to continue to learn, whether it's educating yourself, whether you want to go back to school, but always staying ahead in the things that you do. So kind of being proactive, and then making connections. I know that especially in the last 2 years, that's been super hard, but make connections. Don't be afraid to ask questions for people that already in the industry that you may want to work, or go to those networking events where you get to talk to people, and put yourself out there at job fairs and virtual job fairs. And in my case with NOLA BA is, don't be afraid to shoot your shot. You may feel like you're underqualified, but don't be afraid to go for it, because all it takes is that opportunity to be able to have that conversation with the company you're applying to, or the organization you're applying to, or to, if you're interested in starting your own business, to be able to have those conversations with investors, to show them that you have the confidence and the knowledge and the ability to execute whatever you need to do. So I think those are some of the key things that I would, say is important.
Right on. And I'm just going to read some stuff I see in the chat here. Bianca says, I don't really have a question. Just wanted to say that as someone who hates their job right now and is applying to almost any tech job I find, your story gives me so much hope.
I'm glad. And don't give up, and don't. I know that sometimes you're going to feel like this is a never-ending cycle, but I promise you that if you are intentional and you work hard enough and you go after what you want, it makes a difference when you finally land where you want to land.
And then we've got Daniel here saying, related to the topic of being able to find a job that aligns with your interests and goals, what is outlook of the technology industry in New Orleans in terms of finding a job here? A similar question about, like, do you notice trends of certain things that our employers are looking for? Are there things that you would encourage people to learn specifically, I guess?
I don't think there's anything that I would say to learn specifically. I will say that the tech growth in New Orleans is there, and it's going to. I think that we're showing that, especially looking at how New Orleans, how we're coming back from the pandemic, being able to show that the work is there, the growth is there, working on getting businesses to set up their hubs here. So I think that the tech outlook is, I think it's there. And I think that, we have to be patient and really, again, continue to focus on what you want to do, and see where you can fit in. And I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, people can unmute. I'm also just reading things that I see here in the chat. Amanda says, kind of when we talk about young professionals or people starting that career, does that equal an age cutoff, or are you just talking about people who are new to the profession?
So when I speak on young professionals as it relates to 5.0 Forward, and that's because 5.0 Forward is geared to young professionals, but there is no cutoff. I don't want anyone to limit themselves for any reason. The jobs are there, the excitement is there, the growth is there, and it doesn't matter what age, what your background is, jump into it.
Jason asks, what made you fall in love with New Orleans, and do you still feel that way even with everything going on right now?
With everything, so I'm going to start with the second half of that question first. With everything that's going on right now, do I still feel that way? Absolutely. What made me fall in love with New Orleans when I came here? I would love to say, oh, it was Mardi Gras, it was the big party and all of that, but that's not what it was. I fell in love with the sense of community, the feel, the culture, the potential that I see for New Orleans. And for my first 2 years here, where I, talked about it in my story about how it was a very tough transition, will I say that during that 2 years, maybe I felt a little bit different, like, oh, well, maybe I made a mistake, maybe I should go back home? I will say yes. But I think that was more about me and less about New Orleans itself. And I think it was because I had always grown up in, I grew up in the DC, Maryland area. So it's completely different. It's a new shift. And so I think that I got uncomfortable with some of the changes that I had to make in order to kind of find my place here. But looking back now, here I am. I'm going into year 7, and I can honestly say this was the best decision that I ever made.
Right on. Justin asks, are there any types of training or certifications do you think people should take to help in their development as entry-level IT professionals?
That's a tough question because there's so many trainings out there, right? I think that don't limit yourself to what you want to learn. So if you feel like this training can apply to where you want to go, do the training, do the certification. If you feel like, if you look at a certification and you say, well, this might, take me up to the next level in my career, do it. The sky is the limit really with technology, because it's growing so rapidly that it never hurts to know as much as possible. So go after what you want to go after. And even if you feel like it's something that's like, I don't think I need this, you get that little, kind of like hint in your gut that's like, I don't know, maybe I could use it, go for it.
Right on. Question from Nicole. What made you want to transition from web design to what you do now? And how would you recommend a new student discover and refine their paths? I'm also curious to hear more about your communications major, what that entailed, and how that interacts with your tech experience.
So the starting out in web design was like, I think because, so I grew up where we, used to use the big clunky computers, and then we moved into like finally getting the internet and then learning how to use it. So I think web design was like the first thing like I learned how to do on the internet, and it was like super interesting. And so it was like, yes, graphic design, because this is what I can do. But this was without doing my research, like my own research, to say that, oh, graphic design is a lot more than just web design. And so if I'm being honest, when I first went away to school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I know, that a lot of people that go away to school, they don't know where they want to start. So I started out with wanting to do web design. I got in, and then I realized that the program was bigger and it entailed more learning about other stuff that I wasn't interested in. And I thought, all right, wait a minute, we're going to keep this safe. You also like to be a writer, so let's just go and do writing, right? But then I would say that, I realized that it really wasn't something that I was interested in continuing to do. So, but I still liked technology. I still liked, web design. I still liked all these things. And then I just I spent my personal time kind of learning on my own the stuff that I wanted to learn. And again, I was in jobs that I just felt like I had to take, and I didn't want to, I wasn't learning anything through those. So I decided to, teach myself more about tech. And then, can you repeat the second part of that question?
How has your communications major kind of like, do you find that you use that in your technology background, or like in your current position, or like in technology in general?
Oh, absolutely. While a lot of my job does not necessarily, especially on the tech side, because I work like on the back end of things, troubleshooting and setting things up and whatnot, I may not use the communications degree as much. But I think when it comes down to having these conversations, or whether we're writing or putting together programming for 5.0 Forward, I think that it all comes into play. So I wouldn't say that I don't use that piece of, education at all. I do. I think that it kind of translates on two different sides, if that makes sense. I have my tech piece on one side, and then communications that applies to like more of the economic development side with 5.0 Forward.
Right on. Alex asks, is there any problem you wish you could fix instantly in the cyber world, even security wise? If so, what is it?
We're talking security wise, I have to, and because I am on the like kind of front line of all these things in NOLABA, the scammers are it's crazy. Like they get way more creative, and there's a lot of things that you have to look for. So if there's one thing that, and one thing as far as cybersecurity goes is like, I wish that there was some way to like just stop that altogether. That is because it's also because you have to be diligent. You have to, train your team, and you have to talk to, your company and say, hey, so look, these are the things that, you want to look for when you get those sketchy emails. These are the things that, always want to do to prevent, X, Y, and Z from happening. And then, of course, talking about, insurance and things like that for like cybersecurity insurance and things like that. So it's always like, and because they are constantly evolving and changing and finding new ways to, get out there, I think that's probably one of the things that I would change. And then if we talk about cyber world in general, again, going back to discussing the tech gap, I think that I would love to see resources and technology and access to technology being way more equitable than it is. And if I could change that, that would be high priority. If I could do it with a snap of my finger, I would. But that's part of the work that we do in economic development, is helping close that gap.
Next question here from Nicole. If you were to get another degree to complement your current career, what would you go for?
If we are going to stick with economic development, I would definitely go for urban planning and development, and that would be my next degree stop.
Glenn asks, does NOLA BA have any internship opportunities available?
Absolutely. You can always reach out to us, and we will send over your resume, what you're interested in. And one of the things that we like to do is we will give you the opportunity to work with or talk to the different work streams at NOLA BA, so that you can figure out what you like. So let's say this semester you wanted to do an internship in small business. You can do a small business one and then say, okay, well, look, hey, next semester, can I pop back and do, work with strategic neighborhoods? Absolutely. So if you're interested in internship opportunities, I will make sure that you have all of that contact information after we wrap this up.
Thanks, Naomi. Question I have, is there anything going on with NOLA BA or 50 Forward, like on the horizon, that you're like excited about, or like, we'll start with that question, then I have another one after that.
Yes. So, oh man. Okay. So there is a lot of stuff getting ready to come down for NOLA BA and for 50 Forward. We have some press conferences coming out in, I think, March for 50 Forward. But these are all super exciting things that I can't talk to you guys about yet because
Okay, fair enough. So my second question, is there something that you see professionally or just personally, as somebody who, is New Orleans, loves New Orleans, is there something you think that, our group here should know about that maybe people don't know about?
I will say this, one of the things that I have noticed, right, and this is with industry leaders that I've met. This is with different networking events that I've been to. This is through my job at NOLA BA and the different partners that we work with. I have never been afraid to be myself in New Orleans. Not at a job, not at a work event, not at like a personal event, not running into someone who may be like a partner of NOLA BA or 50 Forward out on the street. Never been afraid to be myself. In the DC area, you always felt like you had to be a different person. So be yourself, because if they won't accept you, then is it really for you?
That's what's up. Yeah, cool. But anything else going on around?
Some great questions.
Oh yeah. Is there anything else going around town that you just think like you want to put on blast? You just want people to know about? Like, I mean, as far as like business development, right? Like, I think part of, with businesses, it's that connection piece, just like you said, right? Like we have people here and we have businesses and getting them together, but like, you know, I know that you're working with a lot of different organizations with NOLA BA. Is there anybody that you think like deserves a good look?
You know what? I'm almost afraid to answer that question because I don't want to leave anybody out. I don't want to feel like anyone is not getting the recognition that that they should get. All of our partners are super amazing. All of the business owners that we work with are incredible. Oh man, I don't know.
Okay, let me ask it a different way. Is there anybody who's not a partner with you that you'd like to shout out so there's no conflict of interest there?
Ooh, okay. Man, I would love to partner with AT&T, Baldwin Books, Google. Let's bring all of the tech companies that maybe haven't noticed us yet to come on through at 50 Forward, NOLA BA, all of us, we're a huge team. Let's make it happen. One of the things actually I do want to shout out, and I want to make sure that I have that information correctly. So let me just pull it up so I'm not telling you a lie. Xbox Game Camp. So one of the things that we did in, I think it was 2020 because of COVID. But Game Camp NOLA is back, and it was 2021. We had 170 people from Louisiana that participated in a 6-month training program to prepare them for a career in video game development. And so Xbox Game Camp, Xbox Studios is bringing that back. And actually the applications opened yesterday on January 25th. So if you go to gamecampnola.com and it's something that you may be interested in, or you know family, any upcoming high school seniors, things like that, please feel free to go check that out and share the information.
Right on, thank you. Do we have any other questions from anyone else?
And another thing I want to say is that I would love to see all of you guys pop up at some of our 50 Forward events. So if you go to 50forward.com, it's 504ward.com, you can sign up for our newsletters. So you can get information on our networking events, meetups, any more webinars that we do. You can get information on Dine Around. We also send out in our newsletters, there may be some job announcements and things like that go out. Follow us on social media. Same thing for NOLA BA. You want to stay on top of everything that we have going on. Just sign up to get notifications.
Can you repeat the website again?
So it's 50 Forward. It's 504ward.com, and that's for 50 Forward. And then there's the New Orleans Business Alliance, which is nolaba.org.
Thanks, Naomi. We'll be sure to share those links and that information, you know, with the recording and all of those kinds of things. So, you know, if you didn't get a chance to catch that, or you know, you want to share it with somebody else who wasn't part of this presentation, you want to pass that information forward, I'm going to speak. You know, feel free.
And if you, so I'm going to drop my email, both of my emails for 50 Forward and NOLA BA into the chat, so that if you guys have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have questions that are like something NOLA BA specific or 50 Forward specific that I can't answer, I'm more than happy to, you know, connect you with someone on my team that can answer your question. And again, internship opportunities, you can also find that on NOLA BA. But if you have any questions, please feel free, you can email me those as well.
Hey Naomi, Claude here. We've been talking the time before this. I just want to say thank you so much for like being here and sharing all this. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you like being so open to like giving all of our students information. So like, thank you so much.
Right, you're very welcome. I'm so glad that you guys reached out and Lisa put me in connection with you guys, because I was super nervous about having this conversation just because I'm always nervous about public speaking, right? Even though it's virtual, it's very weird. But I'm always glad to, share the information. There's more than enough space and opportunity out here for all of us. And so however we have to share it, I'll get you guys there.
Thanks, Naomi. Right on. Well, if nobody else has any further questions, I'd just like to thank you again, Naomi, for being here. This was really great. Thanks to everybody who came to listen, and thank you for all of your great questions. Is there anything else you'd like to say before closing?
Yes,
No, that's it.
before
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have a
Oh, no.
last question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
Is there any way you can share the link to register for the games Camp NOLA from Xbox?
Absolutely. I'm going to drop that in the chat for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Because I was trying to look for it, but I wasn't able to find the registration page. So I'm sorry for interrupting.
No need to apologize. I got you covered. And if this doesn't work for you, you have a hard time finding it, please email me directly and I'll make sure that I get the correct information out to you. Or if there's an issue on our end, I can make sure I let everyone know, like, hey, we're actually having a problem with this page.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Naomi. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll be sharing this recording and all the information about this speaker series and our upcoming events on our website. So thank you again. And that's us. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thanks, everyone.